This week, what happened on the second half of the Pope's Asian voyage? What did he say on the flight home? And we have details on who will be handling sex abuse cases for the Vatican. Hello and welcome to this edition of Vatican Connections. Now last week we focused on the Pope's trip to Sri Lanka. This week we're going to focus on his trip to the Philippines. Now this nation hasn't had the best run of things. The government estimates that 1 out of every 5 Filipino families is poor. That is, they can't provide for their basic food and material needs. 1 out of 10 have trouble just getting the food their family needs. Now, while poverty has improved across developing regions, the Philippine government's own statistics show there's been no improvement in that country. As you would expect, this was one of the key themes Pope Francis spoke about during his visit.
The bishops of the Philippines have asked that this year be set aside as the year of the poor. I hope that this prophetic summons will challenge everyone at all levels of society to reject every form of corruption which diverts resources from the poor.
Poverty was a key issue during the Pope's meeting with families in Manila. Bishop Gabriel Reyes greeted Pope Francis with a moving address highlighting both the piety of the Filipino Church, the importance of the family in the local culture, but also the variety of struggles those families face.
Some of us are fetching water in the heat of the noon sun, like the Samaritan woman by the well. Some of us are confused. Some of us are living in guilt and shame because of our dark, secret sins. Some of us are weary and lonesome. We seem to have everything, and yet we know we have nothing. Speak to us, Holy Father, and teach us as Jesus did at the well of Jacob. Some of us are tired and burdened, discouraged and hurt, like the disciples of Emmaus on that Easter afternoon. Our earnings are not enough, our children are hungry, and we have no means to feed them. Our backs are aching from working all day in foreign lands. Some of us are victims of natural calamities, such as typhoons, earthquakes, and floods. Others suffer from evils caused by fellow human beings. Some of us look for happiness in drugs and alcohol. Speak to us, Holy Father, and bring us the joy that comes only from Jesus.
This visit, though, was really about being present to the people in the country and witnessing their struggles. One touching moment came as Pope Francis greeted a family whose mother and father are deaf, but the children are hearing. Pope Francis celebrated 3 masses in the Philippines, one at Manila's cathedral with priests and religious, one at Rizal Park, and one at the airport in Tacloban, one of the cities worst hit by Typhoon Yolanda, which is also known as Typhoon Haiyan. Despite an approaching tropical storm, Pope Francis went ahead with the outdoor mass. In one of his most moving homilies, he abandoned his prepared text and spoke off the cuff about holding on to faith when disaster strikes.
Padre, me puede decir uno de ustedes.
Father, you might say to me,
A mí me defraudó porque perdí mi casa, perdí mi familia, perdí lo que tenía. estoy enfermo,
I was let down because I've lost so many things, my house, my livelihood. I have illness.
es verdad eso que me decís.
It's true if you would say that,
Y yo respeto tus sentimientos,
and I respect those sentiments.
pero lo miro ahí clavado.
But Jesus there, nailed to the cross,
Y desde ahí no nos defrauda.
and from there, he does not let us down.
Por eso tenemos un Señor que es capaz de llorar con nosotros,
That is why we have a Lord who is capable of crying with us,
que es capaz de acompañarnos
capable of walking with us
en los momentos más difíciles de la vida.
in the most difficult moments of life.
Tantos de ustedes han perdido todo.
So many of you have lost everything.
Yo no sé qué decirles.
I don't know what to say to you.
Tantos de ustedes han perdido parte de la familia.
Some of you have lost part of your families.
Solamente guardo silencio
All I can do is keep silence.
y los acompaño con mi corazón en silencio.
And I walk with you all with my silent heart.
Tantos de ustedes se han preguntado, mirando a Cristo, ¿por qué, Señor?
Many of you have asked the Lord, why, Lord?
Y a cada uno el Señor responde en el corazón, desde su corazón.
And to each of you, to your heart, Christ responds from his heart upon the cross.
Yo no tengo otras palabras que decirles.
I have no more words to tell you.
Miremos a Cristo.
Let us look to Christ.
Él es el Señor
He is the Lord.
y Él nos comprende porque pasó por todas las pruebas
He
que nos
understands
sobrevienen a
us.
nosotros.
He understands us because he underwent all the trials that you have experienced.
Y junto a Él en la cruz estaba la madre.
And beside the cross was his mother.
Nosotros somos como ese chico que está allí abajo,
We are like this little child just there,
que en los momentos de dolor, de pena, en los momentos que no entendemos nada, en los momentos que queremos rebelarnos,
in the moments where we have so much pain, where we no longer understand anything,
solamente nos viene tirar la mano y agarrarnos de su pollera.
all we can do is grab hold of her hand firmly
Y dirle, mamá, como un chico cuando tiene miedo dice, mamá.
and say, Mum, as a child does to her mother when he or she feels fear.
Es quizás la única palabra que puede expresar lo que sentimos en los momentos oscuros. Madre, mamá.
It is perhaps the only word that we can say in such difficult times, mother, mum.
Hagamos juntos un momento de silencio.
Let us together hold a moment of silence.
Miremos al Señor.
Let us look to the Christ on the cross.
Él puede comprendernos porque pasó por todas las cosas.
He understands us because he endured everything.
Y miremos a nuestra madre.
Let us look to our mother.
Y como el chico que está abajo, agarrémonos de la pollera.
And like that little child, let us grab hold of her mantle
Y con el corazón digámosle, Madre,
And with a true heart, say, Mother.
en silencio hagamos esta oración.
In silence, let us
Cada
say
uno
this prayer.
dígale lo que siente.
Say to the Mother what you feel in your hearts.
On his last full day in Manila, Pope Francis met with students and young people. He heard testimonies from some of those youth, including two former street kids. Glazal Palomar and Jun Chura described life on the streets, what it's like looking for food, avoiding adults trying to exploit them, and trying to steer clear of drugs. Palomar broke into tears and asked, "Why did God allow this to happen to us?" Pope Francis, in return, abandoned his prepared text. He started, actually, by asking all the young people present to say a silent prayer for the Catholic Relief Services worker who was killed in Tacloban when a loudspeaker fell on her as a result of the winds caused by the storm. He asked for prayers for her mother, and her father. Now, he also addressed the questions that the youth posed to him, and he used the opportunity to call for more room for women in the church.
Yo te agradezco, John,
I thank you, Jun,
que hayas expresado tan valientemente tu experiencia.
that you've expressed yourself so bravely.
Como dije recién, el núcleo de tu pregunta
The nucleus of your question, as I've said,
casi no tiene respuesta.
also almost doesn't have a reply.
Solamente cuando somos capaces de llorar sobre las cosas que vos viviste, podemos entender algo y responder algo.
Only when we too can cry about the things which you said are we able to come close to replying to that question.
La gran pregunta para todos: ¿por qué sufren los niños?
Why do children suffer so much?
¿Por qué sufren los niños?
Why do children suffer?
Recién cuando el corazón alcanza a hacerse la pregunta y a llorar,
When the heart is able to ask itself and cry,
podemos entender algo.
then we can understand something.
And a little, y la pequeña representación de las mujeres.
And only a very small representation of females among you.
Demasiado poco, ¿eh?
Too little.
Las mujeres tienen mucho que decirnos en la sociedad de hoy.
Women have much to tell us in today's society.
A veces somos demasiado machistas
Sometimes we're too machistas
y no dejamos lugar a la mujer.
and we don't allow room for the woman.
Pero la mujer es capaz de ver las cosas con ojos distintos de los hombres.
But the women are capable of seeing things from a different angle to us, with a different eye.
La mujer es capaz de hacer preguntas que los hombres no terminamos de entender.
Women are able to pose questions that we men are not able to understand.
Presten ustedes atención. Ella hoy ha hecho la única pregunta que no tiene respuesta.
Look out for this fact today. She, Gaziel, is the only one who has put a question for which there is no answer.
Y no le alcanzaron las palabras. Necesitó decirla con lágrimas.
And she wasn't even able to express it in words, but rather in tears.
By now we've learned that Pope Francis is full of surprises. Often it's because he finds himself so moved by something he has to take action. You'll recall in Sri Lanka he made an unscheduled visit to a Buddhist temple. In Manila he paid an unscheduled visit to a home for former street kids. Pope Francis returned to the Vatican on January 19th. During the flight home, he spent nearly an hour answering questions from journalists. Now, he also took that opportunity to clarify his comments on freedom of expression and freedom of religion, which were not well understood by some media and papal watchers. CNS has more.
La libertà d'espressione deve tener conto della realtà umana e perciò dico deve essere prudente. Una maniera di dire che deve essere educata pure, no? Prudente. La prudenza è la virtù umana che regola i nostri rapporti. Io posso andare fino a qui, posso andare di là, no? E questo volevo dire, che in teoria siamo tutti d'accordo. C'è libertà di espressione, una reazione violenta non è buona, è cattiva sempre, tutti d'accordo, ma nella pratica fermiamoci un po', perché siamo umani e rischiamo di provocare gli altri e per questo la libertà deve essere accompagnata dalla prudenza. Quello volevo dire.
Did you know, in 1970, when Paul VI visited the Philippines, an attempt was made on his life. The security guards around him pulled the attacker away, but then President Ferdinand Marcos claimed he saved the Pope with one swift karate chop. The attacker himself was asked to sign a statement declaring that it was Ferdinand Marcos who stopped him from getting to the Pope with one strong karate chop. There were some notable appointments made this week. Let's take a look. Pope Francis has named 8 prelates to the newly created College of Appeals at the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith. Now, the creation of this college was announced a few months ago. It will deal specifically with appeals related to sex abuse cases. The president of the commission is Bishop Charles Scicluna. He is currently an auxiliary bishop of Malta, but before that, he was the Vatican's promoter of justice, or chief prosecutor, for sexual abuse cases. The other members of the college are Cardinals Zenon Grocholewski, Attilio Nicora, Francesco Coco Palmerio, and Giuseppe Versaldi, as well as Archbishop José Luis Molagan and Bishop Juan Ignacio Arrieta. Now, all of these prelates have experience in the various areas that are needed when handling sex abuse cases. The Vatican's Financial Information Authority has a new director. His name is Tommaso Di Ruzza. He is a layman who has been a legal advisor to the Vatican since 2005. He actually helped formulate some of the Holy See's new financial laws meant to combat money laundering. The previous director of the Financial Authority, René Brulhart, was made president of that organization last year. And Austin, Texas has an auxiliary bishop. Father Daniel Elias Garcia is a 54-year-old diocesan priest. He has been moderator of the Curia for the diocese and has been serving in a parish. No ordination date has been released yet. It was a bit of a slow week for the Pope. He was, after all, recovering from an overseas trip. He actually didn't celebrate morning Mass publicly until about midweek. On Wednesday morning, the Pope had 2 special visitors, the 2 lambs whose wool will be used to make pallia for new metropolitan bishops. It's tradition for the sheep to be presented to the Pope on the feast of Saint Agnes. The Pope then blesses the sheep and thus their wool. Wednesday was also the general audience, and Pope Francis used that time to tell the faithful about his recent trip. CNS has more.
Gli incontri con le famiglie e con I giovani a Manila sono stati momenti salienti della visita nelle Filippine. Le famiglie sane sono essenziali alla vita della società. Dà consolazione e speranza vedere tante famiglie numerose
che accolgono i figli come un vero dono di Dio. Loro sanno che ogni figlio è una benedizione. Ho sentito dire alcuni che le famiglie con molti figli e la nascita di tanti bambini sono tra le cause della povertà. Mi pare un'opinione semplicistica. Possiamo dire tutti che la causa principale della povertà è un sistema economico che ha tolto la persona dal centro e vi ha posto il Dio denaro. Un sistema economico che esclude sempre, esclude i bambini, gli anziani, i giovani, senza lavoro, e che crea la cultura dello scarto che viviamo. Ci siamo abituati a vedere persone scartate. Questo è il motivo principale della povertà, non le famiglie numerose. Rivocando la figura di San Giuseppe, che ha protetto la vita del Santo Niño, tanto venenato in quel paese, ho ricordato che occorre proteggere le famiglie che affrontano diverse minacce, affinché possano testimoniare la bellezza della famiglia nel progetto di Dio. Occorre anche difendere le famiglie dalle nuove colonizzazioni ideologiche che attentano alla sua identità e alla sua missione.
On Thursday, Pope Francis met with a group of the Vatican's police force to give them his best wishes for the new year. And then he met with an ecumenical delegation from Finland who were in Rome to celebrate the feast of Saint Heinrich, their patron saint. The visit coincides with the week of prayer for Christian unity. Pope Francis mentioned the joint declarations on salvation that the Catholic Church and the World Lutheran Federation signed 15 years ago. He also mentioned the ongoing dialogue on salvation and the life of the Church, and he said he hopes that more convergence will come out of that dialogue. Pope Francis again underlined how important it is to have to the world to have a common Christian witness. Vatican Connections is interactive. We answer your questions and explain things you want to know. You can reach us on Twitter @VatiConnections or by email at info@saltandlighttv.org. We'll try our best to answer your questions during this part of our show. Well, that's it for this edition of Vatican Connections. Join us again next time for more of what's going on at the heart of the Church. As always, you can follow us on Twitter or Facebook, and you can watch us on demand on Roku. From everyone here, thanks for watching. See you next time.